Are you curious what the most powerful counterspells are? Well, here's our top 10 list. At number 10, we have Red Elemental Blast. This ancient card has been prevalent throughout Magic history, thwarting blue players time and time again. The efficiency of having a 1-mana counterspell and removal spell in one is OP if your opponents are playing blue. But the main downside, if there's not blue represented on the table, this card becomes a worthless piece of cardboard. Next up we have Arcane Denial. With the flexibility to counter any target spell and requiring only one blue pip instead of two, this counterspell can get you out of a jam. It can also be used as a political tool because you'll give your opponents 2 free cards. Plus, you get to draw an extra card yourself. How fun! And then there's Dovin's Veto. If you're playing Azorius, this card gives you the value of a negate with the added ability of being uncounterable. You'll be able to win any counterspell battle, which provides you with a lot of security and control, even against a blue heavy table. And at number 7 we have Swan Song. This counterspell is hyper efficient at 1 mana, which can allow you to use more mana during your turn, and less holding up for counter opportunities. There's a drawback of giving your opponent a 2/2 bird, but in formats like Commander, a 2/2 bird won't do much. You can also only counter instant sorceries and enchantments. This limitation is why Swan Song is not higher on the list. At 6, there's Flusterstorm, another extremely efficient 1-mana counterspell that can counter instants and sorceries. Flusterstorm, when used with its storm mechanic, can clear out spells from the stack to solve multiple problems in one go. There's also a great chance that it can copy itself enough times to make its tax larger than what an opponent can afford to pay. Next up we have Pact and Negation. This spell is the cheapest counterspell you can get at 0 mana. There is a huge drawback of having to pay 5 mana at the beginning of your next upkeep or you lose, but if someone is about to cast a game winner and you need to stop it, this is incredible. Or hold this up for when you're about to win and watch the life drain out of your opponent's faces. And at number 4, we have Force of Negation. This card can be cast for free when it's not your turn by exiling a blue card from your hand, and it sends that card to exile. This card's emergence helps satisfy the cries for more zero-cost counterspells to help deal with all the aggressive combo decks in Modern. The free cost, only being able to be used on others' turns, keeps this card fair, and hardcasting it for 3 is not the end of the world. In our third spot we have Mana Drain. It's a strictly better version of Counterspell that lets you turn the momentum around in an enormous way. 2 mana can be a little expensive compared to some other Counterspell cards, which is one of this card's only downsides. Additionally, it's banned in every format except Vintage and Commander, so we pushed it down to the 3 spot simply because there aren't that many ways to play it. And at number 2, we have Fierce Guardianship. Commander is by far the most popular format to play in Magic, and this card can protect your precious commander from a kill spell or board wipe for the grand price of free. All the other free to cast counterspells we've talked about have a downside to casting it for free, but this card does not. Feel free to tap all your lands out when your commander's out, because you'll be able to protect it without worry. And before we get to our number 1 pick, let's talk about some honorable mentions. An Offer You Can't Refuse is a very efficient 1-mana counterspell, but requires you to give your opponents 2 treasures, a serious drawback. Mystic Confluence has a ton of diversity and ways to play it, but at 5 mana, the cost is way steeper than a lot of other counterspells. And Mental Misstep can be cast for free by paying 2 life, but can only be used on spells with a CMC of 1. All these cards are powerful, but just have some limitations that kept them out of the top 10. And at number 1, we have, you guessed it, Force of Will. It is free to cast if you exile another blue card from your hand, similar to Force of Negation, but it can counter any spell, not just non-creature spells. This card has helped sculpt the play patterns of Magic players for decades. It being legal in Legacy but not Modern has almost single-handedly shaped the formats into their respective power levels. In Vintage and Legacy, where extremely fast early mana generation is key, Force of Will has added a ton of power to decks trying to win in the first turn or 2. And there we have it, the best 10 counterspells in Magic history. Comment below what you think of our top 10, and like always, if you enjoy our content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time.